Hello, this is Soundout here, and welcome back to the Soundcast, episode 9. Today we'll be talking about the Nintendo Switch presentation. And just for this special occasion, I brought in my special guest star, Darkon633.
Hey, well, this is going to be a doozy of a podcast, if I say so myself.
So this should be fun. The Nintendo Switch presentation was tonight, unveiling the console to the world in full detail, along with game previews and developer diaries and more developer diaries and more developer diaries, and I was just getting kind of tired of developer diaries. So let's run down everything that actually happened in the presentation. Mostly hardware stuff. So let's begin by talking about the system itself. Um, in general, what would your thoughts be on the console as a whole?
As for the hardware, I think it's got a lot of potential going for it. We seem to have some pretty cool stuff going for it. We got a lot of variety because of the different colored Joy-Cons, and the bundle seems pretty cool because of what just comes out of the box. Because it seems like for the longest time, game companies don't really focus on putting multiple controllers within one system, and they force you to buy multiple ones, making it very expensive for gaming to begin with. But this time, Nintendo did a clever way, so that now you all you need to do is just buy one package, and you can play with multiple people at the same time. I think that's a really awesome thing they did this time.
Yeah, it definitely leads to increasing local multiplayer potential straight out of the box, where every other console that Nintendo's put out, it's single player until you add something else that's an extra peripheral. It's always been you get one controller, buy more controllers. It's due to the way it's designed, you get two controllers right away, which I think is fantastic. It's a definitely a good step in the right direction, and having alternate colors of Joy Cons is fun for sure. I thought it was kind of cool. You get to have red and blue ones, don't you think?
Yeah, especially since for the longest time, for Nintendo consoles, they usually have just the generic colors. It's usually like a white, gray, black. It depends on what the system it is. But this time, we actually got something more variety from the beginning, and I think that's really nice that Nintendo finally branched out more this time.
Yeah, and especially with a console like this, battery life is an important topic to discuss. 2.5 hours to 6.5 hours was said in the presentation, but it sounds more like it's 2 to 3 hours. Which I mean, I guess we're gonna really just have to test that ourselves because the company's never gonna release an official statement. I think that's a little low. I think it should have a lot more battery life. I understand a lot that it's doing, and it's probably taxing on the battery. And maybe there'll be some kind of upgrade, how the Wii U had the high capacity battery release. But I think it's not enough battery life for most people. What do you think, Darkon?
I think, yeah, the battery is the main problem, especially going by the Wii U. To be honest, while the battery seems short, if it actually stays at a constant time even after long periods of play, and especially over time period when owning the console, I can kind of live with it, especially since most people will probably just dock it in the system anyway, so you don't have to really focus on the battery. But if it goes as bad as what happens with the Wii U, with the battery just dying and getting worse and worse over time, it doesn't really help the system at all.
Yeah, definitely. The system itself, I think it's gonna. I think it charges while it's in the dock, but it also charges through a very common USB type, so it lends possibilities for charging in places that wouldn't be standard AC adapters. You could have car chargers easily. You could plug it into your computer and charge it. A lot of possibilities with charging, which I think is great. Something I'm not happy about: motion control. I don't really think motion control needs to be in a third Nintendo console. I'm getting kind of sick of it, and I don't think that it's going in a good direction. What are your thoughts on this? Motion control versus no motion control?
To be perfectly honest, I think when it comes to motion controls, it really comes down to the fact that as long as it works properly, the problem with the Wii is that while it was a really big thing for the console, it was very finicky and it caused it to have a lot of contact problems, especially in a lot of areas when playing games. And especially with the games that are you're forced to use the higher end version of the motion control, so you have to buy a $40 controller or that really terrible $20 or so adapter just to play the games like Skyward Sword. Oh, jeez.
Yeah, motion controls. I'm not a fan. I've seen them. It's done. The Joy Cons are cool, but they're becoming more and more like upgraded Wii remotes than actual new control scheme. I feel it kind of like leads itself to, yeah, it can hook up to a normal controller thing, and that's great, but it seems like they're just upgraded Wii remotes that are smaller. It's kind of interesting. I think that it's probably not going to get used properly because the gamepad didn't get used properly outside of first party games. The Wii remotes did not get used properly outside of first party games. The Joy Cons will probably not be used properly outside of first party games. I feel like this is just the way things are going. Pretty much that's all I got to say about the hardware. Is any other thoughts you'd like to throw in on the system itself?
Not really, because most of the stuff were pretty much explained during the last presentation, and that's kind of where the problems with this one is, because there was a lot of repeats, and they didn't really explain new information as much. And while the hardware is important to know more about, the games are really where it goes down to the most important part of selling a console and system.
So speaking of games, Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Let's get this out of the way. We had a third trailer showing nothing. I'm not a fan of these trailers. The first one, it was like, oh, look at these pretty landscapes. The second one, look at these pretty landscapes. The third one, look at the pretty landscapes. I get it. This game looks nice. I don't think it's a good marketing scheme because we, get gameplay in the second half of these trailers. And this one, I think, revealed that we have voice acting for the first time, which is awesome. I love that part. But I'm just tired of these trailers. Just like the reason why filmmaking was done with cameras and cameras were meant to be moved. You have to have camera movement, or else things are boring. I got kind of bored at the one last shot of the trailer, where it's just like holding on the sword, or holding on Zelda, or holding and waiting, and then darkness, and then it's a little bit too drawn out. It's meant to be more cinematic, more artistic, but it's just becoming boring. I don't like a lot of the trailers for Breath of the Wild. I think the first one was the only one that really got me. In the first like full trailer, not the teaser with the little battle scene, but just like the first of these full trailers, I just don't think a third one of these was really needed. It just kind of didn't get me more excited for the game than I already was. It's like, oh, this looks pretty good, but I'm just like, I don't know. What do you think of long, long Zelda trailers?
I think it's fine to some extent, but especially since they've shown so much in the Nintendo Treehouse and everything, I think it gets a little bit to the point. The only reason why it's okay this time is that they finally shown the reveal of the actual release, which is the big part of it. But other than that, it's okay for what it is. Just release it and then move on.
Yeah, definitely. I'm kind of tired of hearing about Breath of the Wild, personally. Let's talk about the weirdest games on the whole presentation. 1-2 Switch and ARMS. First of all, dumbest names I've ever heard for video games. Those are just the most generic things. And 1-2 Switch is just a bunch of things to make the Joy Cons look nice. I have no idea why it's not bundled with the system. Every other Nintendo console for the past two Nintendo consoles came bundled with the game to show off the functions of the system. This doesn't do that. It makes you buy it separate, and I don't know if I'll ever pick it up. Is 1-2 Switch anything you're interested in?
Personally, while I think it's looks good from a technical standpoint, something that I would personally care for, not so much. Maybe ARMS just because it's got a little bit more going for it, but it's not something I'll go like, wow, this is a system seller. I'm gonna go right away and buy it. Not so much.
Yeah, they really feel like tech demos to me personally, which a lot of Nintendo launch games are. Or your Star Fox Zero, and it's the last major game on the console, and you're still trying to figure out what the gamepad does. But I don't want to get into that. Splatoon 2. That's a quick turnaround for a sequel, I gotta say. We just got Splatoon like very recently, and due to success, I'm not surprised to see this, and I'm glad it's not just an updated Splatoon. It's actually a full-on new game. Looks really cool. I think this one looks fantastic, and the best part is alternate hairstyles. Finally, the Inklings can have alternate hair. Thoughts on Splatoon 2?
I think it looks amazing. It's got a lot more going for it and all that. It seems to have a lot more mystery since they seem to have shown a lot new characters that were not seen in the first game. One thing is that I really hope there's more shoes available because that's something that really bothered me about the first game. A lot of the shoe variations were awful.
Yeah, I think it'll probably be an expanded version. It is a sequel, but Splatoon is Splatoon. The core mechanic is there, so it's good to go. Weirdest game for me to watch the trailer for was Super Mario Odyssey. He's in a very realistic looking world, a city, different backgrounds, environments. I'm not 100% sold on this game. I honestly am not sure what's going on, and it's different. It's a very different Mario game. I don't know if I'm on board with it yet. I'd really like to see if the gameplay is there. It looks a lot like a Spider-Man game, at least in the city stage. But no, I'm not. I don't know. I'm not completely sold on Super Mario Odyssey. What about you?
I think it's pretty cool. It actually reminds me a lot of Sonic Adventure, which is kind of a bad thing too. Come to think of it, it's because it seems like Nintendo's now copying what Sega did when Sonic went into the real world with their games and so on. So I can see what they're going with, and it really comes down to the fact that since we only saw one trailer prior, and this is the first full-on actual gameplay trailer outside of like the little tech info that we saw a while back, I think I need to see a little bit more before I say it's the most amazing thing ever, but it is weird to see that little hat alive, though. That was kind of a surprising part of the game.
Yeah, that hat scared me. I was just like, why does the hat have eyes? Why is it alive? Why does Nintendo decide to make things have life when they really shouldn't? Just saying. Let me just kind of categorize a lot of these. The presentation felt like to me they were showing a whole lot without showing anything. Oh, look, here's an image of the lead character from No More Heroes. Does that mean there's a No More Heroes game coming out sometime? Yeah. When is it coming out? Who knows? It could be 2025 for all we care. It was just kind of, hey, it's happening, which happened to be a lot of these things. New Shin Megami Tensei. Hey, it's happening. A new game from Square called Octopath Traveler. That is the dumbest name ever. What is your thoughts on Octopath Traveler as a name? I just want to know, name alone, what's your thoughts?
In terms of a name, I have to say that Square isn't the best in naming stuff. We got things like Bravely Default, and even as far as Final Fantasy, regardless of the reason why the name was chosen, they're definitely not the king of what the names that they put in the games to begin with, so it's not really too surprising, to be perfectly honest.
Dragon Quest is coming to Switch. Do you like Dragon Quest? Because I don't know anything about it, nor do I care about it.
Well, I might have had some interest in the past because I almost actually played the one on the PS2. I personally have never played a Dragon Quest game. It's nice to see it appear more on another console, but since we had so much Dragon Quest promotion recently, it just seems kind of it's on a new system. That's how it is.
Yep, I agree. Let's get to some exciting stuff. Xenoblade 2. Xenoblade Chronicles happened. Then you had Xenoblade Chronicles X, and now its third game is called Xenoblade 2. What the hell, Nintendo and Monolith? That's not how numbers work. You go from 2 to 3, or you go from X to XI, or XL, or XV. I don't know what's going on with this. It looks interesting. It's very much more anime style as opposed to a realistic anime style that the first two games went with. And I honestly thought it was a different series at first, but it doesn't. I don't know if it's going to be more expansive than X was. It doesn't have giant robots, so that's a point down in my book. But yeah, what's your thoughts on Xenoblade 2?
It looks really cool. I could see that this franchise is really growing into something, especially since it was taken from the previous company and brought to Monolith Soft to bring the new games. The only thing that is confusing, as you stated, because we bounced from 1X to 2, especially since it's the sequel to the first game, it's very confusing because, first of all, you can't really have a sequel if, from what we could tell so far, it doesn't connect to a previous game. So why even bother calling it Xenoblade 2 if X didn't even connect to the first Xenoblade to begin with?
What if Xenoblade X is the 10th game in the series and the 10th part of the story, and we just got it really early?
That is a good question, but at the moment it's kind of hard to tell. It's kind of even hard to really connect any of the Xeno particular games outside of what's been going on in the games, because I actually played a couple of them, and it doesn't seem like, for at least for what I could tell, it's exactly a full-on connected story, like an overarching connected throughout the franchise.
Yeah, definitely the two Xenoblade Chronicles games have not had any plot connection at all. which kind of sucks, but also is kind of nice because I didn't have to finish Xenoblade Chronicles before jumping into X, which I thought was a superior game. And I think this one, if it were to continue from the first Xenoblade, would be kind of interesting. And then X is just taking place so far in the future that it's actually the 10th game in the series. But it's all kind of speculation for now. Again, Xenoblade 2 is another game that's like 2017, which pretty much means at this point, spring 2018. Uh, I have a feeling a lot of these titles are going to get delayed. What do you think?
Going by Nintendo's previous track record, it's pretty much expected that a lot of these titles are going to be delayed at some point, but hopefully it's not going to be like a year and a half delay, maybe like a couple of months, and I can kind of live with that. But it's still kind of is sad to see a lot of these high-end titles even release at the end of this year rather than early when this new console is coming out.
Oh yeah, definitely. A lot of what we saw today was stuff that's coming out later, including Fire Emblem Warriors, which is a Dynasty Warriors Fire Emblem game. And when I was thinking like Hyrule Warriors came out, I was like, what other Nintendo franchise do I want to see? And Fire Emblem popped to my mind, so I'm really glad to see this. I love Dynasty Warriors, Muso style games, and getting a Fire Emblem game is just awesome. I think that's fantastic. What do you think? We got a brief teaser of it. I'm just excited to see some of those characters rendered in full 3D models instead of just being sprites. But Fire Emblem Warriors, again, another game that we just got as sometime in the future. Quick thoughts. What would you think of the teaser?
Personally, I think it's really ambitious, and it's nice that we're actually going to get some kind of Muso game out of the Fire Emblem franchise, especially since a lot of the previous games we've been getting, there seems to be a ton of crossovers with the previous Fire Emblem games to begin with, so this is kind of like a good tie-in and works out pretty well. Hopefully it turns out to be a pretty good game. Although Muso games can be very clunky at times, hopefully it doesn't really reflect too badly on this one.
Yeah, I'm hoping it is as solid as Hyrule Warriors was. Hyrule Warriors just had frame rate issues, but yeah, it should be good. Let's talk about FIFA. Or not, because half the presentation was about FIFA, I guess. It was like so bogged down. Like EA comes out, I'm like, all right, I understand. You got to represent your third party partners. They're doing a FIFA game that came out. It's going to be on Switch. I get it. They talked about FIFA like it was the best gold standard of high end video games, and that's what everyone needed to own. Everybody loves FIFA, and I was just like, can we get FIFA out of here? Someone kick FIFA off the field. What the heck? What was with all the FIFA?
Yeah, the FIFA thing was kind of ridiculous. I understand that it seems to be some kind of unwritten rule that all types of genres of gaming, at least when it's coming out, needs to be kind of represented in order to not feel left out. Especially since there are a lot of sports fans, I can understand. But because it was so like even just like a good 4 minutes just talking about that one FIFA game was kind of overkill.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot of third party support. The problem with the third party support in this presentation was none of them showed anything. It was like, hi, I'm from Sega. I make video games. Goodbye. Have a nice day. That was pretty much all they were. Skyrim got confirmed for Switch. Whoop de freaking do. We kind of figured that out from the trailer that for the system that came out in October. Sonic Mania is coming to Switch, but that wasn't mentioned during the presentation during the Sega segment. Nor was Ultra Street Fighter 2 The Final Challengers, which that's a weird ass game. Why would you resurrect something from the mid 90s and give it a new title and add two characters that are just repaints and add a co op mode and put it exclusively on the Nintendo Switch? It's a very weird move by Capcom, and they didn't even show up to show it off. So that sucks. But overall, what do you think of all the third party support?
In terms of just existing as third party support, it is pretty good compared to what we got with the Wii U. The Wii U, once they realized the system was going to fail, they backed out extremely quickly. So the system literally became dead within months, and I find that very depressing. This time, the third party support is a lot more hopeful, and we even got a lot of announcement for third party support even before the system was even like coming out and having any details about the system after the first trailer was shown. So it's nice to see them. I just wish they actually showed more of the things like you stated, the Street Fighter and then Sonic Mania and then some of the ton of other games that were shown within that very quick 10-second segment of them just showing them back to back to back in some kind of trailer like format. It's kind of sad to see this much information being blown outside of the presentation when they put all their money and time putting it in the presentation for all this important information to start with.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of information came out afterward, which was really annoying. Um, Overall, let's talk about some bad things. Breath of the Wild, great presentation with the trailer. Good time we got a release date. Why didn't they mention any of the collector's editions during the presentation?
Yeah, I find that really sad, especially since the last previous presentations they immediately showed, oh, this special edition is coming out. It sold out in seconds, but at least they showed that it was going to come out. This time it's like, oh, Zelda's coming out, the day's coming out, then several minutes, not even hours, several minutes after the presentation was over, oh look, we got special editions. Okay, you didn't show this? Why?
Yeah, basically, it's a weird marketing scheme where they want you to go check out the website. And in my experience, people don't read anymore. So why make them go read? It's not going to sell your system at all. It's not going to sell your games, right? Like, that's kind of a no-brainer, I feel. But moving along quickly, there's a Bomberman game coming out. Super Mario Odyssey is not a launch title. It is in winter. Mario Kart 8 Deluxe. There was trailers and gameplay footage of this just shown, not mentioned what it is, not mentioned when it's coming out, but apparently Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is coming out in April 2017. Why would they not show this?
I find that very strange too, especially since Mario Kart is one of their biggest spin-outs for the Mario franchise. And it seems like this time Mario got completely sidelined with the mainline Mario game actually being released later in the year to begin with, and then Mario Kart they kind of just briefly shown in a little teaser there, and then we find more information only to find out it really is an updated port of the older game with some new content added to it, and it's really sad that we didn't see any of that because it would have been a good hype moment in the trailer itself. I mean, the presentation.
Yeah, definitely. There's a lot that just didn't get shown that would have really hyped me up more. There's more amiibos coming, but still no Smash amiibo. And we saw nothing of we saw nothing of Metroid, nothing of F-Zero, nothing of Earthbound, all games that were rumored to happen. Nothing of Pokemon, which was almost all but confirmed recently. There's a lot of stuff missing from this system, and is Nintendo trying to turn themselves around? I feel like they need to try a little bit harder. It's not that they're not trying. It's not that they're putting effort into it. I just think that for hardcore fans, like a hardcore fan like me, I'm a pretty decent Nintendo fan. I'm not picking up a Switch right away. I'm gonna be waiting a while. What What do you think, Darkon? Will you be picking up a Switch day one?
The only reason why I'm going to pick up a Switch Day 1 mostly is because of Zelda. Unfortunately, all I can't say it was a system seller just by looking at it. It kind of ends up becoming one for me because I'm a big fan of the Legend of Zelda franchise, and while it's obviously not handled the best, I'm going to get it for the sole sake of getting it, especially since the Wii U port seems to have disappeared from any mention anywhere.
Yeah, it seems like that. Yeah, it's kind of a weird time. It feels like we got so much information yet we didn't get much at all. Um, there was a couple other things. Internal memory is 32 gigabytes, upgradable with micro SD and micro SD HC cards. And I think that was about it. That was one thing that was kind of curious. Was the system storage. But overall, I think the Nintendo Switch has a good start to it. and things are going good, and it could be a very fantastic console if it just gets the software to back it up. So that's pretty much it for me. I'm just gonna be waiting. Darkon's gonna be probably getting one day one. And yeah, any closing thoughts on the Switch presentation?
The presentation itself was extremely lackluster, but nowhere near as bad as what happened with the Wii U. The Wii U had a ton more hype going for it, but it doesn't seem like it really backed up over time. At least for the Switch, there is a lot coming out. It's not like they said nothing, since they did state that a lot of stuff are coming up, especially since it did state like about 80 or so games are being in development as of right now, which is already 100 times better than what we've seen with the Wii U. But that doesn't mean it's still a great presentation, because it still had a lot of information not shown during it, and it just seems like everything was scattered and all placed on the Japanese side of the Nintendo website, not even on the Nintendo America one, at least from what I could tell when I last checked.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying. But overall, I think that pretty much wraps it up. It's late. I need to get this podcast out and rolling for tomorrow. Stay tuned for more on the Soundcast. Thank you to Darkon633 for guest starring on this podcast. I really appreciate your opinions here. Your outlook on things is different than mine, which provides some difference of opinion in the content on this channel, which is much appreciated. If you want to see more videos, including the weekly Soundcast, be sure to hit the subscribe button and hit the bell to get notified every time I upload a new video. Be sure to hit the like button if you enjoyed this look at the Nintendo Switch presentation, and comment below what you're most excited for from the Nintendo Switch. Until next time, this is Sound Out and Darkon saying goodbye.